Hey, folks, this clip is brought to you by Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey from Knoxville Distillery. Make your own luck, just like Tennessee football's fast paced Rattle and Snap offense with Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey. Moving on to recruiting, Tennessee got a commitment from Idris Baruch, a safety, and we're going to talk about that right after I tell you about our great sponsor, Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey. Nothing goes better with a Tennessee sports victory than an awesome whiskey. And if you watch the post game shows with myself and Jonathan Crompton during this past football season, during those 11 wins, we like to take a drink of this here very awesome whiskey, Rattle and Snap Tennessee Select Straight Whiskey. Logstill Distillery has released a new Tennessee whiskey product line called Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey, named after a long forgotten game of chance. Rattle and Snap is a whiskey for those who make their own luck. There's a 4-year and an 8-year version. This is the 4-year. They're both awesome. They both go great in cocktails. They both are great straight up. So go get your hands on some. And also, I guess this is proof right here. They also look great on the shelf. It's a beautiful label. You can find it in across the state of Tennessee. Rattle and Snap is also available in Kentucky, Indiana, and Mississippi if you live there. Run, don't walk. Get yourself some Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey for those Tennessee victories, and follow Rattle and Snap on Instagram at Rattle and Snap Whiskey. Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey. Now we're supposed to give the Rattle and Snap Tennessee stat, and I guess I can give you this about Idris Baruch. He is a 3-star, number 55 safety in the 247 Sports rankings, number 561 nationally in the 247 Sports composite. In the composite, he's the number 47 safety in America, class of 2024 from Baltimore, Maryland. There's some stats on him right there. And this was just after the spring game. There were a ton of visitors at the spring game, and we can talk about that too. But what did you think about this pickup, Zach?
I mean, it's exactly what Tennessee needs, a versatile safety that can defend against the run. He can cover. Super athletic guy. It's also another example of Tennessee staff evaluating. I mean, they offered this guy like a year ago or maybe over a year ago. He's seen his stock rise. They saw something they liked early, kind of like the Nathan Laycock deal where they were on him early. And then later on, the evaluations from the recruiting services kind of catch up, and you're like, okay, this guy's really good. So should give you a lot of confidence about this staff's ability to evaluate talent. Obviously, they're pretty much nailing that, I think, and it's just fills a position of need. It's kind of interesting. It seems like they've got a couple of guys from Baltimore lately. I know Dante Thornton is originally from Baltimore as well, so maybe that can become a nice little pipeline for him and go up there and rob some players from some Big Ten teams up there.
Please, because the Big Ten doesn't deserve them. That's not a real football league. You can come down here to the South and actually play with some real teams. No, I like this a lot. It does kind of go to our point last week where do I like these pickups? Absolutely. I think this kid is good. There's that same kind of talk around him where it's like, okay, you give him another year. He's probably that stock's going to go higher than what he's got at the moment. But it isn't that elite recruit that you're going to go and consistently beat your Georgias and Alabamas with. But the story to me at this point with guys like this is just that you work with what you have in front of you. And that's what Josh Heupel and his staff, I think, are doing. Obviously, on defense, there is a bit of an element of probably a harder sell than that offense with Josh Heupel, because obviously your defense plays like 90 plus snaps in some games and kind of, especially this last season, becomes a villain when maybe sometimes they shouldn't. I'm not going to give him a pass on something like the South Carolina game. Don't give up 63 points ever. But in some other games, they just get worn ragged because of the style of play, and they just can't hold up at the end. Like Purdue in Heupel's first year in the bowl game, like something like that, where they just at the end of the game, they got nothing left in the tank, and so they can't cover anymore. And so it can be a tough sell, and you're still getting kids in the door. And as far as recruiting goes this past weekend, with all the recruits that were here, and there were some important ones around Camarion Franklin and some of the other guys. I'd have to go back and look at the list. But
some important dudes that you want. That's got to be an impressive thing that they saw this weekend, and that's really good. I mean, it's a spring game. I don't know what the attendance numbers were across the league for spring games, but I got to think that Tennessee was at the very top or close to the very top in America. And that has to be super impressive. Also, they get to see the family atmosphere. They get to see everything that happened in a little bit more of a laid back setting rather than an actual game week where, Tennessee's going to play Alabama. Well, it's great that those recruits got to see that Alabama game, but at the same time, you're getting a very different experience here because there's not that game week pressure going on and all the things that kind of come along with that. So I'm excited overall. Just keep doing what we're doing and keep chugging along. And there are guys in the pipeline right now that Tennessee is talking to, and I think they'll land some of these blue chips, but it's going to be a little while longer, I think.
Yeah, I think your point about the spring game and recruiting, Tennessee's really kind of getting on a level with Alabama and Georgia and in that range where you go to a spring game and you got a lot of fans, you got fans that know the recruits when they see them. You've got former players. I mean, there are a ton of former players there on Saturday. And Josh Heupel said there was over 300 in for the weekend. But you got guys like Hendon Hooker just walking around, Jawan Jennings just walking around, Ramon Foster, Alontae Taylor, who had a great year for the New Orleans Saints. Like all these NFL players just kind of walking around amongst a lot of these recruits, and they're just kind of all mixing in and seeing each other. And I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's a huge selling point. And then the family atmosphere, they definitely saw that. We saw it. I know we talked about it on a Saturday during the live stream, but you had players, families of players that were wanting to take pictures with like Nico and Joe Milton and some of the bigger name players. And these guys didn't hesitate. I mean, at one point, Brew McCoy was holding somebody's kid for a photo and was just, handing the kid back into the stands. I mean, it's that. It's seriously that. You saw Joe Milton holding kids. I mean, is that kind of environment where it really is this family atmosphere where even the parents of these players, you can just tell the relationships that they have with other parents of players, and they all get along. Families kind of out there on the field. It's a great vibe. I mean, the vibe in general. We've been to a ton of these spring games. The first one I went to and covered as media was Butch Jones' first spring game back in 2013, and just the vibe, and not that the vibe there was ever bad, especially those early ones, going to the spring games. But this spring game felt different to me. It felt a lot different. There was this energy in the air where it was just like, it's like going to a family cookout where you really want to be there and everybody's happy and smiling. It's just a good time. Like it had that kind of feeling to me.
Few things go better with a Tennessee sports victory than an awesome whiskey. And actually, me and Jonathan Crompton had a drink of whiskey during the postgame show of every football win this past season. And more specifically, we had Rattle and Snap Tennessee Select Straight Whiskey. You can see right there behind me. Log Still Distillery has released a new Tennessee whiskey product line called Rattle and Snap Tennessee Whiskey, named after a long-forgotten game of chance. Rattle and Snap is a whiskey for those who make their own luck. There's a 4-year and an 8-year version of Rattle and Snap whiskey. And actually, this one behind me is the 4-year version right here. It's perfect for making your favorite whiskey cocktails or just drinking neat. It's really great stuff. And I mean, you can see it there. The bottle looks great too. You can find Rattle and Snap right now in stores across Tennessee. And Rattle and Snap is also available in Kentucky, Indiana, and Mississippi. So run, don't walk to get yourself some Rattle and Snap whiskey. And follow Rattle and Snap on Instagram at Rattle and Snap Whiskey. That is Rattle and Snap Tennessee Select Straight Whiskey.
I think there's just real belief again. And you can tell from the fans down to the players. The players believe in what Heupel is doing. Obviously, Heupel believes in himself. And the fans believe in everything that's happening there. And it all just flows together. It creates a real, it's the right word, like synergy when you're there. You can just you can feel it. It's like tangible in the air where there's not this air hanging over everything of just like, hey, we won, with Butch, it was like, we won 9 games last year, but also, we lost to Vandy to end the season. Was it really that good? Is Butch really the guy? Is the blah, blah, blah? There was just always this nonsense kind of hanging over everything. And right now with Heupel, like obviously things can take a turn, but he's shown this fan base like it's okay to really believe in what's happening with this football team. with this athletic program. And so, man, I think that's it, so different, so refreshing, so exciting. I love it. But there was a there was a comment right here. Salem, he asks, who do y'all think will be the best chance to be the next splash blue chip recruit to commit to the Vols? Lots of developmental players lately, it seems. That's a good way to describe them. Developmental players, guys that they're not there yet, but the potential is there. That has been who Tennessee has been getting lately. A couple of offensive linemen last week.
I mean, they did get a 4-star quarterback that's a top 60 player,
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago. So it hasn't all been
Yeah.
developmental
No,
guys.
according to the 247 Sports Composite, the number one quarterback from the state of Georgia committed to Tennessee. So I would say that was the last one. You could call him borderline blue chip. I mean, you have the wide receiver, not Camarion Franklin's defensive line. It's Ryan Wingo, wide receiver. I think there's a chance there. Franklin, some of those guys, I'll say I'm not VolQuest. They would really be the ones to kind of give you like they go and text those kids and talk to those kids and do all of those things. I can only tell you so much, but I do think from everything that I've seen that is coming. This class will not go out hanging only on 3 stars. That's not going to happen. Obviously, they've already gotten 4 stars like that quarterback and some other guys. But it'll come around again because Tennessee had such a great year last year. I mean, you're going to get guys. One that I like, Wingo, a wide receiver. I think you're going to get a special wide receiver in this class. It just seems almost inevitable because of how great the set of wide receivers has been under Heupel, right? That has to happen.
Especially if Hyatt and Tillman go pretty high in the draft in what 2 weeks or a little over a week from now.
Absolutely.
One other thing about the recruiting that I've kind of noticed, I guess, this past couple of weeks is Tennessee has like 9 commits in their class right now. They're ranked number 7 in the nation. I don't know what the exact numbers were a year ago, but it felt like the class was nearly full. Like we were talking about, like, they just have a couple more spots left to fill. At one time, Alabama was ranked like way low because they had 3 or 4 commits. A lot of these bigger name guys don't commit until later. And to me, that tells me that, Tennessee's going to be in the mix for quite a few talented guys that other top programs are going for. Obviously, you have to go land those guys to round out your class, but they're getting more in line with the way some of those top 5 recruiting classes are built, where a lot of the guys kind of come on late.
I think a big one would be like an Edwin Spillman, in state. That could be one coming up. And to your point, they typically commit later.
Alabama has 5 commits right now. So
Yeah,
Tennessee's kind of just above them. Whereas a year ago, there was this wild variance, and a lot of Tennessee, they fell down. I don't know what Tennessee ended up with, like the number 10 class maybe last year when they were top 5 for a while, and they fell down because they were propped up a little bit by volume more than rate. I mean, they had a great class, but that was why it fell down to 10th, where it had been top 5 for a while.
Let's see. Some of these other ones, you're from just from the state of Tennessee, just looking, you already have Caleb Beasley. Boo Carter, everything that I've read says, there's definitely other teams in the mix there, but he's probably coming to Tennessee as 4-star. Edwin Spillman, 4-star. He's probably coming to Tennessee. There's some of these other guys, and it just takes more time. So
I think Boo Carter's kind of enjoying, nothing wrong with this. I think he's kind of enjoying the recruiting process and isn't really in a hurry to shut all that down, but it does feel pretty strongly that he's going to be at Tennessee.
Yeah, I think so. And that's obviously that's imperative. You got to get the best guys out of the state of Tennessee if you're going to be the head coach of Tennessee here.